Welcome to the Courting Happiness podcast. This is a place where self-care becomes part of your day. A space where you'll learn evidence-based strategies to help your life, share it with those you love, and cultivate well-being at work. I'm your host, Dr. Kortni Alston. I'm a former news director, television reporter, turned happiness scholar, TEDx speaker, and transformational trainer. I also understand hardships. While working my dream job in television, I lived a nightmare of suddenly becoming a young widow after 86 days of marriage. I became committed to learning more about resilience, healing, and happiness. This is how I discovered my area of research, which is positive psychology. Now I'm living my calling of training individuals and organizations on happiness. And my new chapter begins with being happily engaged. The Courting Happiness is about a true courtship. I like to say commitment with happiness. The K in courting stands for the vulnerability of sharing my story, inspirational interviews with others, and the infusion of science and so much more. You will learn how to commit to your well-being one episode at a time. I hope you subscribe and share. So, are you ready? Let's get started. Welcome to episode 7. Last week, we started on the conversation about strengths. And well, we're going to continue to discuss how strengths can really serve us. But first, I want to ask you a question. Let me ask you, are you stressed? Are you stressed right now as we speak? Many of you listening might be saying, hey, Dr. Kortni, are you kidding me? When am I not stressed? Believe me, I can relate to those moments as well. But what I hope that you can relate to today is the fact that I'm going to share some evidence-based strategies and really how character strengths and strengths can serve you. What I love learning so much about character strengths are really on how it can help us through stress, or really with stress, right? So one of the most stressful days in my life has been when I've dealt with loss. And I remember 20 years ago becoming a young widow at 25 years old. And I was in the midst of that time. And I remember being 25 and learning that the man that I met in college, who asked me to marry him when I was 19 years old, suddenly died after literally 86 days of marriage. During that time, that I don't mention during my intro, is that my mom was diagnosed with a rare cancer and had to have emergency surgery literally 3 weeks before our wedding. If you can only imagine that period. On top of that, I was a reporter working my dream job in television in Philadelphia, one of the top markets in this country, yet living a nightmare of loss and really dealing with his death. And on top of dealing with his death was the fact that my late husband's death was making headlines because of the newsworthiness of the story. And I will tell you this, when I look back on it, what really helped me get through were my strengths. Now, I didn't know, I didn't know that at the time. I didn't know anything about positive psychology 20 years ago. But those events that happened in my life led me to finding positive psychology, led me to really desiring to really finding and learning and being even more passionate about learning more about positive psychology. Literally led me to this area of research. And when I think back on that, you know, I think back on some of the things that I kind of leveraged or leaned on or really kind of helped me through, which you're going to find out more about that today. So let's talk about at least three of the scientifically proven character strengths of mine that I've learned along the way. So I took the VIA survey of character strengths on the Authentic Happiness website, led by the University of Pennsylvania. I took it when I was working on my PhD at the University of Florida. I remember the day that I took it, actually. And the character strengths are made of 24 universal character strengths such as love and curiosity and social intelligence. And I share a little bit more about character strengths in the episode before this one, so episode 6. But when I took the survey, it literally helped me understand myself so much more. It gave me insight on my strengths and literally, as I mentioned earlier, how I kind of leveraged them to help me through stress. So once you take the VIA character strength survey, they give you your results instantly once you complete the survey on the site. And you can register for it on the site. As a matter of fact, if you go to the Courting Happiness podcast community page on Facebook, the site is already there within our group. You can click on the link there, and the post kind of walks you through what that process looks like, registering for free and so forth, and but giving you a little bit more insight. But once you kind of go to that site, which you can also Google it, and check out the Authentic Happiness website out of the University of Pennsylvania. And once you click on that site and register and start under the questionnaire section of taking the VIA character strengths, and I say that because there's one for children, and I always tell my students, you don't want to take the one for children, but you want to take the one as relates to the VIA character strengths. Now, you certainly can take the one for children if you want your child to take the test, right? But if you're looking for yourself in terms of being an adult, take the VIA survey of character strengths. So I say all that to say is that once you take the survey, it will provide your results. And one of them is identifying your top 5 strengths. So 3 out of the top 5, I can see how it served me so many years ago, even though I knew nothing about positive psychology back then. I can see how it served me then, but now since this is my area of research and I'm a happiness scholar, I can certainly see how it continues to serve me. So one of my favorite topics, of course, you guys know at this point, is gratitude, which happens to be one of my character strengths. I love it because according to my character strengths, right, in terms of the results, I'm taking a look at the sheet now. Let's see. And so I'm looking under gratitude, and it says, you are aware of the good things that happen to you. You never take them for granted. Your friends and family members know that you're a grateful person because you always take time to express thanks. Now, back then, I remember being grateful for time, really for the time with my mom, my parents, and my friends and family members. The day my late husband died, the day he died, was my mother's first chemo treatment. Think about it. So I'm working for a new company, new news organization. We're spending time going through these mock newscasts and starting to produce stories to put in the can so we can be able to share it later with the public when we actually make our debut. And so I'm busy at work, getting accustomed to my new job, getting accustomed to a new city, getting to know the great people of Philadelphia. And I'm newly married. So I am a newlywed, right? And so I'm, excited about being a newlywed, even though that day was a hard day because I'm thinking, oh wow, my mom my mom is going through her first chemo treatment, and thinking about my mother and thinking about catching up with my mom and seeing how that day went. And so that's kind of was my thoughts that day. I don't believe I even shared it with coworkers that it was my mother's first chemo treatment. I probably started sharing a little bit later once I dealt with the actual death of my late husband. I think that that kind of prompted me to really start sharing more on the job, with people who I worked with, who I will tell you, they're friends. They became very close friends. The people that I met in my life then, I still have in my life now, and I cherish them. Some of them actually listen to this podcast and they know who they are. And I'm so grateful for them. So that day, again, the day my late husband died was my mother's first chemo treatment. But when I look back on that day, I was so grateful for the fact that I had 17 more years with her. But I remember when it initially hit me, and I remember crying with my late husband, Brian, that's his name, when I can't recall where we were driving to, but I do remember how I responded. I remember thinking about finding out that my mother would have to have emergency surgery, and I remember he and I getting married, but I also remember sharing all these moments with him and being so fearful of losing my mom. And I remember my head being on my lap, so upset about her diagnosis. But after his death, I looked at time, I really looked at time differently. I saw it differently. I was so grateful for the moments with the people that I love. That's why I can sit here and go, wow, those friends, actually those coworkers back then at my TV station in Philadelphia, who are now lifelong friends. So grateful for them. So grateful for them. So um gratitude has really been this incredible um companion for me, or really this incredible dynamic in my life that's allowed me to really sit back and be grateful for moments even when I'm going through hardship. Matter of fact, I made a gratitude workbook. And if you would love to learn more about one of my favorite things, which happens to be gratitude, you can go to my Instagram page, which is The Happy Researcher. Again, The Happy Researcher. And certainly definitely look for me. My name, Dr. Kortni Alston. Kortni spelled with a K. I say that because I think there's another Happy Researcher, but this one has no underscores or anything. It's just The Happy Researcher. Click on the link in my bio, and for the Courting Happiness Gratitude Workbook. And it's free, and it's this great resource. I love it because for some of you who may be new to gratitude, it gives you that great jump start. And for those of you who may be an individual that's really values gratitude, it's a great way to learn more about some of the scientific benefits of gratitude. Plus, I will also add it to our Courting Happiness Facebook group. So that's kind of like your one-stop shop, literally, as relates to our discussion or any discussion that we have here in the podcast. The Courting Happiness podcast community, a little tongue twister for me there, but the Courting Happiness podcast community in our private Facebook group is really a great way for us to have that continued conversation and doing it online. So in the workbook, you'll learn more, and it kind of gives you, again, an added companion in terms of the content to help you commit to your well-being strategy. And that, again, is really sharing more of the power and the scientific benefits of gratitude. So my second character strength is appreciation of beauty and excellence, which I will tell you this. in regards to noticing, being appreciative of beauty and excellence. I love being able to do that all around me. But when it comes down to the results for the VIA survey of character strengths, right? Um, One of the things that I love that it shares is that it says you notice and appreciate beauty, excellence, and or skill performance in all domains of life, from nature to art to mathematics, to science to everyday experience. I love how they included mathematics in regards to that. So even the beauty of seeing mathematics, but I love that because it speaks so much to me. So I saw this firsthand when my mom was alive. I was so grateful for the time with her. So after I lost my late husband, and I had my mother for 17 years after finding out about that diagnosis. She died 4 years ago. And I remember when she was alive, and I was so grateful to have my time with her. But I remember seeing the beauty in moments with her. And I remember seeing the beauty in something as routine as going to the grocery store or supermarket and standing in an aisle with her, treasuring looking at her, just look for an item in the aisle, and looking for, different things as relates to getting ready for the holidays. She would make these beautiful, incredible cakes and cookies and pies and cupcakes. And but I remember just just looking at her and feeling so much beauty in the moment and appreciating the beauty in the moment as it relates to just having that time with her in a grocery store, in the supermarket, in an aisle, you know, a place where many of us will go to grab something, right? Or just to need to grab food for whatever occasion it is. It might just be just for dinner tonight, or might be that special occasion as relates for the holiday, or honoring or recognizing someone's loved one's birthday, whatever the case may be. But I remember being in that aisle, and I remember being so filled with joy, seeing the beauty in it all, seeing the beauty in that moment. So recently, um, I just purchased some holiday cookies just to look just to look at them, to be honest with you, to remember those fond memories of the ones that she created and actually creating new ones. So Halloween is a good example of that. I did something different this year. I have been obsessed with YouTube. So I feel like I should have like a confessional right now. It's a serious confession, like saying, my name is Dr. Kortni and I am obsessed with YouTube. But I will admit it, I am obsessed with it. I love watching it. I love seeing what other content creators are doing. I love meeting people from all over the world and checking out the world, really kind of seeing it in their lens. And I love that my fiance Ken is so patient because when I am on YouTube, I kind of will sit there in limbo. I'm like, oh my gosh, should I watch this? Should I watch that? Uh, just searching for my next great YouTube video to watch. But I love it. I love it. And I will tell you, I have watched countless Halloween videos on these incredible bakers, really artists that make these incredible cakes, right? You know what I'm talking about. Some of the cakes that don't even seem like they're cakes at all, or just cakes that are just so beautiful in all things in terms of seeing this work of art. So every time I watch the beauty of the art of cake making, was one of these incredible humans out there who are creating these incredible masterpieces as it relates to cakes, I think about my mother. And I thought about it recently, like, wow, I'm thinking about mom every time I'm seeing these cakes because my mother was that person. She would create these beautiful cakes that were works of art. I remember cakes. I remember one birthday she made a cake, a Barbie doll cake for me. I call it a Barbie doll cake. It was a doll, and then her beautiful skirt was made with this amazing icing. And my mother would just, I mean, my mother would create cakes, and they were just works of art. And I knew it even as a child. I knew, I was like, wow, this is not a regular birthday cake. This is something different here. And she was this incredible artist. Incredible artist. I saw it in regards to her cake making. I saw it as it relates to um when she would crochet. And now many of her works of art are up in our family home. And my dad has them so well orchestrated, kind of all throughout um, our home, our family home. But seeing the beauty in their work allowed me to appreciate the beauty in my mother's work. So, as I mentioned, 4 years, it's been 4 years since I lost my mother. I still miss her. There isn't a day that I don't think about her. I'm sitting here in this podcast studio right now looking at a bear that my dad gave to me, made out of my mother's pajamas in the studio. So I really think fondly of my mom, and I love seeing how I can incorporate her beauty in new memories. And so I say all that to say it brought me to thinking about this movie. I love all things Kathy Lee Gifford. My mom loved Kathy Lee too. And I grew up watching Kathy Lee and Regis. And Kathy Lee just released a new movie called Then Came You. And it's actually I don't want to give too much of the movie away, but she's a widow. But she says this line in the movie that really kind of hits home for me. And she says, I got to make new memories or the old ones are going to kill me. Talk about powerful. I got to make new memories or the old ones are going to kill me. That line spoke to me so much. Kathy Lee told USA Today that she came up with that line from her own experiences. She said that she was about 2 years into widowhood when she started writing and sharing that. This movie is phenomenal. Again, I don't want to give too much away, but I will tell you this. This tells you how much I love the movie. I plan on watching it again. I'm so grateful that I own it. Incredible writing, acting, the storyline is so meaningful. And I believe as a widow, I see so much meaning in this movie. But that line was a line that really stuck with me because what I'm learning is that I am also loving the beauty of creating these new memories that incorporate levels and inspired by my mother or inspired by my loved ones that are no longer here. So let's talk about the third character strength. And the third character strength, I can tell you this. I can see how it's helped me through stress. I can see how it's helped me build resilience. And I can see how it's really helped me all throughout my life. That third character strength is kindness and generosity. So I'm going to read the results again from the University of Pennsylvania Authentic Happiness site as it relates to my top five, and kindness and generosity is actually strength number five for me, actually. And it says, you are kind and generous to others, and you are never too busy to do a favor. You enjoy doing good deeds for others, even if you do not know them well. So I was like, wow, I love that. I can see that. I can see that in me. I love seeing kindness. I love being kind. but I love seeing kindness in others. I say that because I think kindness, I think kindness is pretty sexy. I really think kindness is sexy. And I say that because my fiance, Ken, who you've met in episode 5, and I mentioned, um, well, I believe I mentioned this. I believe I mentioned how he wears kindness. He is that person that does so many things for another person and no one knows what he's doing behind the curtain. He's not a person to announce it or just to freely share it with people. Um, but I love seeing him wear kindness and share that kindness with the world. I love that about him. I love seeing that as in terms, especially how he serves the world as it relates to giving back and sharing information or helping someone or, um, you know, uh, you know, helping other people. And I will tell you this: one of the things that I love is when I got to be able to share, or when I can share kindness with him, right? Because one thing I am very grateful for is that we had a long distance relationship, the beginning of our relationship, and now we are in the same home, sharing the same state, and sharing so many wonderful new experiences together. But one of those times where I was, looking back on our relationship, I thought about what I loved in one of the experiences that we shared. So we share a journalism organization together. It's actually where we met. And we have a national conference every year. And Ken actually serves on the national board of this organization. And during one of the conferences, he was out, countless meetings all day long. And, I came back into our suite and I decided I want to do something to show how much I loved him and how much, how I'm just so kind of excited, right, about our relationship. But then also just excited about who he is as a person and wanted to show just how much I love him. And so what I did was I literally took, I think it was a little notepad. It was a little notepad from the hotel. When you see them, they're like on the desk of the hotel, usually next to room service. And so I grabbed the pad and I grabbed a pen and I just started writing these little love notes and putting them all over the suite. And so when he walked in to our suite, all he saw with all of these messages sharing how much I loved him and how all these different experiences that I loved about our relationship and just loved about him. So for me, I was so present at that moment because I just treasured sharing this experience with him. And I will tell you this: the journalism organization that we're both a part of, I've been a member for like I guess 2 decades now, and I've kind of shared that conference experience single many times, um but I just treasure being able to have that with him, like this organization that we both are so fond of and that we love, and to be able to share that with the man I love, and to be able to see all of these different experiences through his eyes, and then being able to share it with my friends, and then creating new friends, and then him creating new friends with my friends, and then me creating new friends with his friends. So it was this great, really wonderful experience. And I felt like a teenager, honestly, at 40 something years old during that period. I just felt like a teenager to be able to treasure seeing a man who wears kindness the way he does. So I love seeing kindness. I love seeing it. And I love helping those I've never met. So I can see so many benefits in terms of my results, in terms of loving seeing kindness with the man that I love, and then loving being able to be kind and helping people that I've never met. and actually working on creating more time so I can help more people that I've never met and creating a life where I can just continually do more of that. Many of you may know that I have a TED Talk, and my TED Talk actually focuses in on being a widow. I actually did a TED Talk back at the location near the area where my late husband died. I hadn't been there since his death. And I talk about how positive psychology has helped me become really develop my purpose, find my calling. And what I love so much about my talk is the fact that I will get a private message from a person that has suffered the loss that has told me that, wow, your TED Talk has really helped me feel less alone. Your TED Talk has really helped me get through. Or your TED Talk has helped me um, really push through the loss of a loved one. I've heard from widows. I've heard from, people experiencing various losses of loved ones. And I really value that the talk has made those people feel seen, heard, and less alone. Um, when I said yes, when I was invited to do the TED Talk, I spent so much time trying to figure out what I wanted to say and trying to make sure that it was meaningful but I didn't realize when I did the TED Talk that correction, I didn't realize when I agreed to do the TED Talk that I would be grieving while doing the talk. I literally got the invitation literally hours after I defended my dissertation. And my committee says, congratulations, you're Dr. Kortni Alston. I was like, wow, great. Oh my gosh. And I remember sharing it with family and friends. And the next thing I know, I remember looking in my inbox and getting an invitation to do my first TED Talk. And when I said yes, my mother was alive. And I would have never imagined that 2 months later, a couple of months after that, my mother would die, and that I would literally start writing and start processing my TED Talk while I'm sitting here saying goodbye to her on her deathbed. Never thought that would be the case. So when someone takes time out to find me on social media or to find my email address and to send me a message and to tell me that, it means the world to me. And I hope this podcast serves people in that same way of sharing my story, sharing the stories of others, sharing science, and really sharing evidence-based strategies that can serve you. And even if it's allowing you to think of a new way of, applying self-care, or maybe it's just simply listening and saying, wow, I feel less alone by listening to Dr. Kortni. No matter what it is, I just want this podcast to be able to serve in that way. And so I can see how my character strengths of kindness and generosity, how it can speak to elements of me. I will tell you this, today, I actually saw our audience is growing, which I'm so happy to see, in Russia and in Germany. And I'm so happy to see this global presence and also to see it grow within the United States. So many different states within the United States are chiming in to this podcast. I'm so glad that it's speaking to you, and I'm so grateful that it's serving as a companion in your journey as it relates to your well-being and self-care. There's this incredible scholar. Her name is Dr. Kelly McGonigal, and she's the author of The Upside of Stress. She shares the most common effects of stress include strengths and growth and resilience, and that positive change can can really help a person as relates to kind of building resilience, and then also helping them in terms of a person dealing with loss or trauma or life change, that it can really help in terms of building a person, right? Some of the things she talks about is a sense of personal strengths, which we have really gotten a really good idea of as relates to this episode, talking about strengths, an increased appreciation of life, and then also enhanced social connections and relationships. So I treasure what she's sharing because we've shared so much of that in regards to just this episode today. And the examples of kind of helping to craft the power of strengths, and really the power of character strengths. Last episode, I referred to them as superpowers because one of the things I love about Ken is that he always reminds me, he goes, hey, don't forget to leverage your superpower. And I'm like, wow, I kind of like that he says superpower. So I love saying superpowers because it reminds me of what my superpower or superpowers are. So I hope you learn more about your character strength. I hope you learn more about, quote, your superpower, right? And I hope you're inspired to help you build more resilience. So, as I mentioned earlier, I have a gratitude workbook. If you would love to learn more about one of my favorite things, Oprah has her favorite things, and I have my favorite thing. It happens to be gratitude. Although Oprah loves gratitude too. So feel free, again, you can go to my Instagram page at The Happy Researcher. Again, The Happy Researcher. Click on the link in my bio for the Courting Happiness Gratitude Workbook. Plus, you can also catch it in our private Facebook group, which is the Courting Happiness podcast community. And again, our private Facebook group. So I am so sad to say this, but it is the end of this episode. But I'm happy to say this. Let's continue this conversation online. Again, join the Courting Happiness podcast community. Don't forget, it's courting with a K. And are you ready to spread happiness? Subscribe and share this podcast. Build your commitment to well-being, starting with you and developing a domino effect with the people in your life, your family, friends, coworkers, and those phenomenal positive relationships that you have as well. A new episode is released every Thursday, and I want you to continue to commit to your courting happiness journey. I want you to be well, be happier, and be kinder to yourself. I can't wait to see you next week.